Shetty of the BJP. We have Supriya Shrinate, national spokesperson of the Congress, Reena Gupta from the Aam Aadmi Party, and Ashutosh, columnist and author, also joining us this evening. Let me first ask Supriya Shrinate about this. What Mr. Trivedi was just saying, Supriya Shrinate, is that the youth of this country in particular, they have awakened. He invoked the words of Swami Vivekanand. Now, isn't there a grain of truth in what Mr. Trivedi says when he says that this was a vote on Vishwas, Supriya, because you can't just see it in the prism of only polarization. That's certainly a big part of it. But the fact is, would you concede, having had time to look at how these results went down, that welfare schemes and that messaging of delivering, to people, voters on the ground, that has worked somewhere?
No, with all due respect to Mr. Trivedi, and the one thing that I want to say, and maybe half jest, but in all seriousness, is it takes very few minutes for somebody to convert to the BJP and start speaking their language. It's almost indoctrination, the awakening of Vivekanand, how the kind of words that he was using. Mr. Trivedi was once a secular person who was standing against what the BJP was doing, but guess so be it. I think power entices those. But I think to the larger point that he was making, and I have deep dived into data now, very, very strictly as far as UP is concerned and other states as well, I don't understand what Vikas they talk about, because in Uttar Pradesh, the election was fought on Abbajan and 80-20. And I'm sorry, just like you can't use the word that was used against a particular community by Yogi Adityanath, that is what the election was. Polarization was the biggest factor, and there is no denying that. And this misleading statement that each time a BJP spokesperson comes and gives is women are voting for us, including the Muslim women. Absolutely not. There is data that shows that there might be a 2% average women voter who's voted more for you, but they're not 15% like others are saying. I also want to place on record one important thing. If you had indeed done Vikas in a state like Uttar Pradesh, you would have fought the election on that. But you did not talk about the Vikas, because for Vikas, you were showing the bridges of West Bengal and the roads of America and the airports of China in your ads. You did not have real Vikas to show. Even on the job website in UP, you were showing Korean and Chinese children. You did not find anyone suitable candidate from a 20 crore population.
But would it be flawed to look at it only as a campaign that was done on polarization? I'm not saying it's not a factor, like I was telling Dinesh Trivedi as well. But are you in denial if you're not trying to grasp the bigger picture here, that look, they beat anti-incumbency and they did pretty well, held on to their vote, actually did better in terms of vote share, and that the welfare schemes, their delivery, their messaging, that would have something to do with it as well?
I am reasonably certain that it wasn't just polarization that won them the election. It was the biggest factor, laced with a little bit of delivery that they keep talking about. But the reality is that any other government of the day would have done what they have done through Corona crisis. And the one big point that I think everybody in the BJP comes and makes about dynast, and I think you were right in asking him the question, they take all our dynast and they're happy with them. But when it comes to the Congress or any other party, they're willing to point fingers.